What would you do if someone told you to get up from a table you paid for in front of your entire family? Not joking. Not quietly. But loud enough that people at the next table stop chewing just to watch what you'll do next. Because at 29, I learned something that brunch menus never warn you about. Humiliation doesn't always come from strangers. Sometimes it's served by someone who used to share your lunchbox in primary school. But before we continue, please subscribe and turn on the notification bell for updates. My name is Nadine Okoro. I'm a software project coordinator. I plan timelines, manage deliverables, solve problems before they become disasters. I'm the person companies call when their systems are about to collapse and nobody knows why. But in my family, I'm the quiet one. The one who reads too much. The one who doesn't network. The one who moved away for 6 years and came back without designer bags or a new accent. So when my cousin Lorraine Bassey invited everyone to an upscale cafe for Sunday brunch to plan her engagement dinner, I thought, maybe this was one of those peace offerings. You know the kind. Where people suddenly remember you exist when there's good lighting and a photographer coming later. I arrived early, 10 minutes before the reservation time. The host asked for the name. I said Lorraine's. He checked the system, smiled politely, and led me to a long, beautifully set table inside. 12 seats. Linen napkins. Custom place settings. The kind of table that makes you sit up straighter without realizing it. I ordered a coffee. Sat down. Checked my phone. Then Lorraine walked in 15 minutes later with her fiancé Daniel and the rest of the family. And the moment she saw me sitting there, she stopped. Her smile didn't fade. It froze. This seat is reserved, she said. Pause. Then quieter. But not quiet enough. Not for you. Go sit outside. We might need space for Daniel's business partners. A few people laughed. I noticed phones coming out. Side glances. That shift in tone when a joke isn't really a joke anymore. And just as I was about to stand up, the server stepped over, placed the receipt in front of me, and asked, card or cash. But what came next would change everything, and no one saw it coming. Have you ever walked into a room and realized everyone in it already decided who you were before you even opened your mouth? Because in that moment, with that receipt sitting in front of me like a quiet accusation, I could feel it. The assumptions. The hierarchy. The silent agreement about where I belonged. Not here. Lorraine didn't even wait for me to respond. She laughed. That short, dismissive kind that's meant to soften something sharp. Oh, Nadine, don't be dramatic. We just need the main table inside. You can sit on the patio. It's quieter there anyway. Quieter. That word again. It's funny how being calm your whole life suddenly becomes evidence that you deserve less space, less attention, less inclusion. Cousin Michael leaned back in his chair and smirked. Fresh air might inspire job ideas. A few more laughs. Daniel shifted in his seat, clearly uncomfortable, but he didn't say anything. Didn't defend me. Didn't question it. Just stared down at the table like the grain of the wood was suddenly fascinating. And Lorraine? She had already turned back to the host, asking about adjusting the seating arrangement. Talking logistics. Acting like the decision had already been made. Like I was already gone. But here's where it got strange. The server didn't pick up the receipt. Didn't apologize for the confusion. Didn't say, oh sorry, wrong table. Instead, she placed a glass of water beside my coffee. Carefully. Like she wasn't in a rush at all. And then she leaned in slightly and said, very softly, take your time. Take your time, for what? I glanced around. The host was whispering to someone near the entrance. A man in a dark suit who looked suspiciously like the floor manager was now standing just a few steps away, watching our table. Watching me. And suddenly, Lorraine's confident tone didn't seem to match the tension building in the room. So I reached for the leather folder. Opened the receipt. And the second my eyes landed on the name printed at the top, Lorraine's smile began to fade. What happens when the person being asked to leave is the reason the reservation exists in the first place. Because printed neatly at the top of that receipt, in bold, unmistakable letters, were 2 words. N. Okoro. My name. Not Lorraine's. Not Daniel's. Mine. And suddenly, that quiet tension in the room made sense. 2 weeks earlier, I'd wrapped up a corporate integration project between my company and the cafe's new digital booking system. Nothing glamorous. No red carpets. Just months of back-end testing, scheduling conflicts, data migration, and a last-minute server crash that nearly delayed their entire launch by 3 weeks. We fixed it. Quietly. As a thank you, the cafe's management offered me a private reservation credit for up to 12 guests. Full brunch service included. Dessert tasting optional. No expiration date for 60 days. I wasn't planning anything fancy, so I forwarded the confirmation email to Aunt Vivian. Told her the family could use it whenever Lorraine wanted to host her engagement planning brunch. Convenience, right? Except no one bothered to ask whose name the reservation was under. So there Lorraine was, unknowingly hosting her big, picture-perfect family moment using my professional courtesy credit. Prepaid table. Reserved seating. Service package already logged into the system. All under Nadine Okoro. The same Nadine she had just asked to move outside. The server hadn't made a mistake. She was waiting for the reservation holder's payment preference for additional service upgrades Lorraine had requested when she arrived. I looked up. The manager was now standing directly behind her. Lorraine noticed too. "Is there a problem?" she asked, her voice tightening just slightly. The server smiled politely. "We're just waiting on the reservation holder's payment preference." Lorraine turned toward Daniel, confused. Then toward Aunt Vivian. And finally, toward me. And for the first time since she walked in, she realized they weren't talking about her. Ever watch someone try to take back a moment that already went public? Because the second Lorraine understood what was happening, her entire posture changed. Her shoulders dropped. Her smile came back, but this time it was thinner. Controlled. Oh, she laughed softly, waving her hand like the whole thing had been a simple misunderstanding. "We didn't know you were hosting." "Didn't know." Aunt Vivian leaned forward almost immediately. "Nadine, you should have told us," she said, her tone shifting into something that sounded suspiciously like concern. "We thought Lorraine made the booking." "Of course you did." Because growing up, Lorraine was always the one with the big ideas. The one people said would run companies someday. Meanwhile, when I moved out at 22 with 2 suitcases and a laptop, the family group chat went silent for 3 days before someone finally asked if I needed help finding receptionist work. Lorraine had told people I was probably doing admin tasks somewhere small. Temporary. Just until I figured things out. And now here we were. The manager stepped forward slightly. "Ms. Okoro," he said, addressing me directly. "Would you like us to continue with the full service as planned?" The table went quiet. Not awkward quiet. Performance quiet. Phones still out. Conversations paused mid-sentence at nearby tables. Even Daniel was looking at me now, like he was waiting to see how the story would end. Or begin. I could feel Lorraine's eyes on me. Aunt Vivian's too. Michael had stopped smiling completely. All of them suddenly aware that the person they had just asked to sit outside was the one deciding whether brunch continued at all. So I picked up my coffee, took a slow sip, looked at Lorraine, then Daniel, then back at the receipt in front of me, and said, "Actually, I'd like to make a small change." What do you do when the person who tried to move you out of the spotlight suddenly needs your permission to stay in it? Because the moment I said I wanted to make a small change, you could feel it. That shift. Not in the room. In them. Lorraine's fingers tightened around the back of her chair. Aunt Vivian's smile stayed in place, but her eyes didn't. Daniel straightened up like he was preparing for a meeting instead of a meal. The manager nodded politely. "Of course, Ms. Okoro. What would you prefer?" And, just like that, the same patio Lorraine told me to sit at 5 minutes earlier became very important again. "I'd like the table split," I said calmly. "Transfer half of the prepaid service to the outdoor seating area." Silence. Not confusion. Understanding. Because now everyone knew exactly what that meant. The same patio table she had pointed to, the one she said was quieter, more appropriate for me, would now receive the dessert tasting, drink pairings, and extended service package she had requested when she arrived. The upgrades. The extras. All of it. Outside. Lorraine blinked. Wait, Nadine. But I wasn't finished. The main table stays as is, I added. For myself, my grandmother ESI, and anyone else who'd still like to join us inside. Grandma ESI, who had arrived quietly 10 minutes earlier and taken a seat beside me without saying a word when the laughter started. My younger cousins, who never laughed. Michael looked down at the table. Aunt Vivian opened her mouth, then closed it again. Because what exactly do you say when respect is no longer something you can negotiate socially, but something already confirmed in the system? The manager nodded once. Understood. And, just like that, the patio Lorraine told me to sit at became her table. So let me ask you this. Why do we assume silence means incapability? Why do we mistake calm for weakness? Because sometimes, the loudest response isn't spoken at all. Sometimes, it's printed quietly, right at the top of a receipt. And that day, they didn't ask me to move again.